Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up
All that jam.
All That Jam, Quick Hit. Getting to know Nathan Womack.
Nathan, I was looking back to see how long ago it was that we had talked, and it was kind of right in the heart of quarantine era, kind of in that general
Yeah,
kind of moment in
yeah,
time. So now that we're not in that exact spot anymore, it's great to see you.
yeah, yeah. Seriously, yeah. It's good to see you too.
All right. So, Nathan, I think that for everybody out there, it would be great if you wanted to just tell us a little bit about what you do as it relates to music, and then we'll kind of dig in from there.
Yeah, my name is Nathan Womack, and I'm a music producer and record label owner. So I started my record label, Wax Thematic, 10 years ago, this year actually. So this will be our anniversary, which is exciting. But yeah, I started out just being a music lover as a kid and getting music passed down to me from my siblings. And then from there, I just kept going deeper and deeper as my life went on and started buying records, collecting records, playing those records out, making my own music. And it just keeps growing. It just keeps growing from there every year, more and more.
Mhm. Well, congratulations on 10 years. I mean, truly, that is a wonderful thing. And I love to see it. I mean, it's not an easy industry. You know that better than I do. So to
Yeah.
keep that going, I think, especially through the last, 3 or 4 years, really is a wonderful thing. For you, what's shifted, if anything, in how you kind of manage the business side of that, or even the artists that you're working with? Have you had to kind of think of things a little bit differently?
Yeah, that's the interesting part of it. I mean, honestly, the biggest piece that I've come to realize within the past year has been the most challenging, I guess, has been managing my own art in tandem with running the label, because that was the reason that I kind of started it, was to have a home base to put out my own stuff and to put out some of the people I was working with, put out their music as well, because I really believed in the stuff I was doing and I believed in the stuff that the people around me were doing. So um, for the first 10 years, it was really trying to figure out, how do I put out other people's music, and then every now and then I would kind of work on something. But because the label can be quite complex and take a lot of time, it would make my projects, or the projects I was working with other people, it would make those take even longer. So that's the most challenging thing as of now, is how do I stay true to myself as an artist? How do I keep the quality up of the music that I want to put out? And how do I make sure the label runs as smooth as possible? Because other artists are depending on the label
Hmm.
to run properly.
Right. And I would imagine that for them or you, if we think back, even 2014, 2015, things that monopolize time now, like social media, the kind of promotional things, um, it almost seems like you can't not do it. I guess you can not do any of that, but I mean it's just kind of this never-ending cycle. So I definitely can see where you're trying to position your own art and your own work in there. Um, what have you done to
Yeah.
try to bridge that gap of time? Like, have you been able to set aside time for your stuff?
Yeah. I mean, within the past year, I've actually started a side career, which has greatly helped manage my time. So when I first moved out to to China, I was working with working for another company, and still doing the label. But after the past few years, I wanted to change things up and allow more time for the label and more time for my art. And so now I'm an English teacher, and it gives me 4 months out of the year to totally dedicate to art. And still in my free time, during the school year, I'm working on it nonstop. But now I have these huge blocks of time where I can wake up in the morning and dedicate the entire day to, okay, today I'm just going to work on my album, or I'm only going to work on this remix. Or, okay, these next 3 days, the entire day is going to be distribution or publishing or licensing or whatever. So that shift, that massive shift in my life has really allowed a really, really consistent schedule for my art and for the label. So that's been a huge help over the past year.
Yeah, well, totally. And as a former teacher, that schedule is,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's an
Yeah, I didn't know
incredible one. Yeah, I taught for a long time, and
Oh, awesome.
yeah, and I now that I've been in kind of the ed tech world for almost 10 years, which is crazy, you do start to realize how much it means to have those big blocks of time.
Yes.
It's amazing. And so I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you found that. And clearly, doing so much with it. I feel like I've seen, actually, I'm pretty sure I've seen online some reels or, posts of you kind of hitting up some markets, maybe looking for vinyl or other
Yeah.
things. So one of the things I was really, really curious
Yes.
to ask you about is just this scene where you are, like, you're probably discovering so many awesome things. I'd just love to hear about that.
Yeah, it's really crazy, because it's changed a lot in the past 5 years. It's really, really grown. There's still more record stores just in the city of Seattle, or probably now it's probably about the state. But last time I looked a few years ago, there's more record stores in Seattle than there were in all of China, which really blew my mind at the time. But it kind of also gave me some perspective as to, okay, I can see that the market is drastically different. But it's really cool because there was a lot of music from the 70s that was made in Hong Kong and Japan and the surrounding countries, Thailand, Vietnam, places like that pressed vinyl, and they pressed a lot of vinyl, and that stuff is still floating around. And so I'm on the mainland. I'm not really outside of the border where it's a lot easier to find that stuff, but you will find a lot of stuff from those places that kind of float in, because I'm down close to the border of Laos, Cambodia, and that area, and Thailand. I'm like, an hour flight away from Thailand. So that stuff, being close to the border, that stuff always kind of like overflows, and you can find some really, really amazing stuff. But yeah, it's really fun to go looking for it. Maybe the most fascinating part is when I first came here, I would find a lot of kind of underground shops in people's apartments, markets along a decommissioned railroad track, things like that, like, dubbed cassettes. And I started realizing that there just wasn't a lot of vinyl made here, when everyone else was making it during like the peak of the kind of my sweet spot, which is sort of anything psychedelic, anything groovy, anything soulful from the 60s to the 80s. But how they were getting music was other countries around the world would kind of honestly just throw it away, and that trash would get sold to China. So there would be a lot of barges that are full of vinyl records. And so people would go to these barges in the port cities around China, and they would dig through the other countries' trash And a lot of it would be pristine records that other people in other countries were throwing away, and then that trash would get sold to China, and then China would deal with it. So a lot of it was trash from other countries, but it definitely, I found out, it definitely didn't mean that it was bad music. So it was kind of crazy. It was literally one country's trash is another country's treasure, sort of thing. So that was a really exciting moment when I realized, like, oh, this is like, why am I finding Brazilian records in China? Like, this is so weird. I didn't expect that. And it's like, then I followed the lineage and was talking to people and realized, oh, it's because other countries are throwing it away.
Yeah. Well, and similarly, so I listen to a lot of podcasts, and one that came to mind as soon as you started talking was about actually cassettes in the 1980s. Kind of similar type of story. And I remember, because I'm a big cassette lover still.
Awesome.
I
Awesome.
have hundreds and hundreds in my basement that
Oh, nice.
and I still have the equipment to play them and all. So I basically rehome everyone else's cassettes. If they don't want them, I'll happily take them and keep them.
Oh yeah. I saw you talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. You must be loving it now for the nice little revival that cassettes are having.
I know.
That's super awesome.
Over here I've got a couple that just came out in the last year or two. But that idea of, is the same for cassettes as vinyl, that it was something that other people had discarded was the most revolutionary thing, for people in China, not only in a musical sense, but politically too, because they were able to use some of that recording material in like various kind of campaigns. And it's just fascinating to me. It shows how much music is like a part of just history, and it's there for all these big moments. So
Totally.
I guess, like, thinking about that then, with you being, so immersed in the industry, have you been able to kind of turn some people on to the stuff that you listen to or the bands that you represent?
Yeah, definitely. When I was in Seattle a few years ago, I lived there for 10 years, but I started to play music from other countries. It's kind of been dubbed now like global groove, something that's kind of groovy, funky, fun to listen to, a little bit psychedelic. I started to play that stuff because I was just so into it. And then I started a few DJ nights around town, and I was really blown away by the response. People were just really into it. The nights were definitely not as packed as they are now, but it really blew me away that people were so interested in it. And then I kind of realized over time, as the years went on, that the more I shared music from, whether it was Thailand or China or Hong Kong, people were just really into it because it seemed like they wanted something different. They were hungry for something that they didn't know about, but they could enjoy it fairly easily. It wasn't like a super heavy spiritual jazz record, like you need to sit down and really think about how this is going. But if it's in kind of a more like communal, social dance type of setting, they're really, really into it. So yeah, I find that the more I share the stuff that I find, people are interested in it way more than they were just a few years ago.
If you are enjoying All That Jam, please like and subscribe to our social media channels at All That Jam Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or visit our website, allthatjampod.com. Make sure to sign up for our email list and tune in every week for new episodes.
Also, look for full interviews on our YouTube channel. And remember, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long.